Hi, everyone. This is Caroline with the Expat Interviews Thriving Abroad, where we go all over the globe to find amazing and interesting people that we talk to and gives us great information about their travels, their life abroad, and always excited to bring you information that is very, very, very important to you. And I know today's discussion is going to be super, super, super important for you if you in particular are looking to live abroad in beautiful Mexico and purchase a home. So there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things that people don't know, a lot of things they're going to be surprised to know, and we're going to fill you in on all of that great information. I have the lovely Kathy Pelbrams is here with me today to give us some really good information on the mortgage process in Mexico. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So really quickly, a lot of people, a lot of times people think, well, I'm moving to Mexico, I'm a backpacker, or I'm moving to Mexico and I just want to rent an apartment. But there's a lot of people that really would be interested in purchasing a home if only they knew they could, right? So I think that we could just get into, first of all, how easy is it to be able to purchase a home in Mexico?
It is easy if you have the right people around you. The complete process is of course a legal process. It goes through a notary. So with the right people around you, it's not so complicated. It's different from other countries, as it is in every country. But it is possible. It is a happy process, as it should be, and with the right experts around you, no problem.
Well, that's good to know. I know that also, depending on where you move to Mexico, it can be a little tricky, right? Could you just explain that? Like if you're near a coastal area or if you're inland, there is a big difference when you purchase, correct?
Yes, that's correct. If you purchase within 50 kilometers of the ocean and within 50 kilometers of the border, then you have to go through a trust. In Mexico, as a foreigner, you legally have, let's say, no right to buy property anywhere in Mexico, but you can ask for a permission from the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, and they will give you a permission. That is anywhere in Mexico. The permission will go through your notary. It's just paperwork. It's very easy. If you want to purchase 50 kilometers from the ocean or 50 kilometers from the border, you have to purchase through fideicomiso, as it's said in Spanish, or a trust.
Okay, so just a little bit about that trust, because a lot of people are confused. Some people think that with a fideicomiso, which is what you said, a trust, basically it's just getting around the area, the gray area of owning a home as a foreigner, right? Is it just getting around it, or is it the legal process? So let me rephrase that. A lot of people think, and let's just go back to fideicomiso. If you could just explain a little bit, because maybe a lot of people aren't really familiar with what that is. It's a trust, but how does it actually work?
In the trust, the owner of the property, so the person who is purchasing, and the property is in the trust, and there will be a bank taking, or a trust fund, I think is the correct translation, will be taking care of how the property is handled. So you're still the owner. If something would happen to you, the property is still inherited to your family, but it is there is a bank in between to supervise, let's say.
Okay, so if I do go through a fideicommiss in case I have to, it's my home. I can sell it. I can do whatever I want with it. I can leave it to my heirs. I can rent it without any issues whatsoever.
Yes, that's correct.
It's just that there's a bank in between us that kind of makes it legal, I guess. I'm just trying to put it in words that folks can understand.
Yes.
It's just part of the, okay. So that's that. Now, if I'm purchasing, like, say, for example, in Querétaro, in Mexico City, in areas where I'm not close to the border, what is that process like?
The process is the same for foreigners and for Mexicans. It is important to have your RFC, your Mexican tax ID. That will be one of the requirements that you will be asked by the notary. The notary here is the, let's say, the legal entity that makes sure that all parties are protected and that everything is done legally. So there will be the notary, and the same notary will make sure to request the permit to the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. The Secretary of Foreign Affairs will confirm that you are allowed to buy the property. The only restriction, and that is what you actually sign when you make the request to Foreign Affairs, is that everything that is related to the house or to the property, you will be handled as a Mexican and not as a foreigner. That's the only difference, let's say.
Okay, okay. Do I need a lot of money to purchase a home? And I know that's relative, as opposed to, if I just want a simple property, I don't want anything fancy, a mansion, I just want a simple home. Is the process simple? Is it medium difficulty? What would the process be like?
You can, if you are a resident in Mexico, you can actually get a mortgage. You are allowed to buy property through a mortgage. If you are a temporary resident, you will have to show income in Mexico. If you are a permanent resident, you can show income in Mexico or outside Mexico. So that's not necessarily your income. For example, if you are retired, if you are working online, if you are working for a US company, for example, you can still prove income with your income in the US if you have permanent residency in Mexico. So taking that into account, that already reduces a lot the money that you would need. It is important to take into account, to take one step back. When you purchase a house, it is important, of course, to know the correct price of the house. That has to be as close as possible to the real commercial value of the property, and you will have to pay taxes as well. The taxes are different depending on the state. It can go from around 3% in, for example, in Michoacán, and it can go up to 10%, for example, in Mexico City. So there's a big difference, and it depends on every state. So once you start looking for a property, it's important to check with your real estate agent or with your mortgage broker, so you get the right information. You can try to look online, but the information is not very complete, so it's better to talk to an expert who has the latest information. So it's important to have the money to buy the house and the taxes. The taxes that you have to pay the day that you will sign your deed at the notary. That is the day you will have to pay your taxes. If you decide to use a mortgage, the maximum financing you can get in Mexico is 90%. So you will need at least 10% down payment.
So that is similar to other places then, like, for example, the US or Canada, just a 10% down. Okay, mm-hmm. But the rates are probably a little higher, right?
Yes, the rates are definitely higher. The rates are between 9 and 10% right now and going up. So if you're thinking of purchasing through a mortgage, it's a good moment to do so. However, the rules are a little bit different. You cannot only compare, you should not only compare the interest rate. It's important to compare also the possible profit you might have on the exchange rate. We know that usually, or let's say historically, for example, the US dollar and the Canadian dollar have increased in value versus the peso. So if your income stays the same, however, with inflation it should go up, of course, and your monthly payment of your mortgage will stay the same, you will have some profit because of the exchange rate. So yes, the interest rate is higher. However, to get a mortgage abroad to buy property in Mexico is not so easy either. Most foreign banks will not do that. So in order to buy property in Mexico, it is still a good idea to go for a Mexican mortgage. Mexican mortgages always have fixed interest rates as well. It will not change. It will not change with the economic situation in Mexico, and you can always make prepayments without any penalty. So if you finally decide to sell another property, you can still invest that money in your Mexican mortgage and pay it off as soon as or as late as you want.
And does the bank matter whether it's investment property or residential?
We will, in order to apply to have mortgage conditions to be applied on loan, it will have to be residential.
Okay.
The mortgages that we do or that we help the people with are always for residential property. It doesn't really matter if the people will actually live there 12 months.
Oh, that's what I meant. Owner occupied. Like, for example, if I wanted to purchase a small home to Airbnb it out, just to rent it, is that possible? Or do I have to owner occupy? Do I have to live in the home?
No. You can, as long as you pay your monthly payments, the bank really doesn't care what you do with the house. If it's empty, if you're living there, if you're only living there half a year, if somebody else is living there, they don't really care.
Wow, I love those banks. They don't care what you do as long as you pay them. Wow, that's amazing. That's really, so these banks are they members of the these are Mexican banks, and they're part of, like, in the United States, we have the FDIC. Are these banks members of some type of an organization, a government organization for protection for the mortgagee?
Yes, of course. All the Mexican banks and all the banks and financial institutions that we work with comply with all the laws, and they are part of their respective associations. And yes, of course, yes.
One other thing, how do we go about knowing the appraisal of a home? For example, I know there's probably a lot of realtors here, just as anywhere else, that will tell you, oh yeah, the house is, worth X or what have you. But how do you make a comparison? Because there's not like an MLS system in Mexico where you can kind of make comparisons. How do you do a comparative buying here without that tool?
There is indeed no such tool in Mexico. There are companies that are professional appraisal companies, and they have a certification, and they will do once they do the appraisal, they will draw up a report that has an electronic signature by a person that is certified to do so. So that is the kind of appraisal that is done also by the banks. If you buy through a mortgage, that is also part of the process. However, there is a big difference with the appraisal. I understand that in other countries, the appraisal is not only visual, it is also structural. Here in Mexico, all appraisals are just visual. It's just, let's say, a market comparison of the market, and it is focused on the market value of the property and not on the structural, if structurally the property is okay. If you want an appraisal, a structural appraisal, then you will have to hire an architect or an engineer to do so.
Now, how would that matter to the mortgage company in terms of worth, value?
For the bank or for the mortgage company, it's important because if you stop paying your monthly payments, they have the right to sell the property in order to recuperate their money. So for them, it's important to know that if it comes to that point, how much the property will be worth in order to recuperate. The bank will only borrow you 90% of the commercial value of the property or of the agreed selling price on the lowest of both. So that's why it is important for them, and that's why they have an official appraisal company doing the appraisal.
So they would have, I'm assuming the bank would have to do some back appraisal also, because if they're giving you 90% of the loan, I mean, they're going to lose more than you, right? If you default or something happens. So that's really good to know. That's good to know. Well, okay, so it's easy. What does the process normally take from the time I sign a contract until on a already built home, not a pre-development? How long does it usually take?
If you're buying with a mortgage, in the first stage, and we usually recommend to do that at the same time when you start shopping, is to get your approval from the bank. There are no in Mexico, banks don't give pre-approvals. That is a difference as well. Even if they will give you a pre-approval, it will be because you entered in a branch and they just ran some numbers. They usually don't check a lot of documents. So the pre-approval is really not worth a lot. So it's better to, at least with one bank, go and really start the process and obtain the approval of the mortgage. At that point, you have no obligations. You didn't make any costs at all. And it's good to do that at the same time you start your shopping, because when you start the shopping, and for example in a place like Querétaro where the real estate is moving really, really fast, when you see a house you really like, the negotiation will go much quicker and you will have, as a buyer, a lot more power if you can confirm to the current owners that you already have your approval of the mortgage, or that you already have the money in your pocket. That process for foreigners, it takes around 3 weeks, more or less, to get the approval. It's a bit more complicated than with Mexicans. Once you have the approval, or if you have the cash to buy the house, it will take normally around 4 weeks to coordinate with the sellers, to have all their documents sent to the notary and to the bank in case of a mortgage, to coordinate with the notary to make sure that everything is legal, that the person that is selling you the house actually has a right to sell you the house.
Yeah, that's important.
That's important, to make sure that your money actually goes to the seller. That is important as well. And of course, the selling side is protected as well, to make sure that the person who is selling the house to will actually pay for it. If anything in between goes wrong, then officially the house will not be sold. So that is why the notary is there, to protect both parties and to make sure that the deal is legal.
Okay. So here's an example. I have poor credit in the United States, but I have cash. Am I still able to purchase a home here in Mexico?
Yes. Yes, you can purchase a home in Mexico with cash without any problem. You will have to transfer the money. You cannot bring your suitcase full of money, because there is a limit on paying with actual cash, with the suitcase, let's say. So you will have to transfer it, and it will go into the bank account of the seller. But yes, that's perfectly possible.
Wow, no credit, I'm okay as long as I have cash. Poor credit, I'm okay as long as I have the cash. Wow, that's amazing. Wow, I love Mexico. Just have to have the cash, right? The cash speaks.
Yes.
Wow. So and you work with any realtor, it doesn't matter. You're I guess client by client basis. Now, does your company charge fees? Right, you do charge fees to broker these mortgages, correct? But that all comes in closing costs. How does that work?
No, we work more like the sales force of all banks at the same time. So the one who is paying our commission are the banks. Our clients will not pay 1 peso
Oh,
for our
okay.
service.
Oh, that's
Um,
great. Okay. Okay. That's good to know. The banks pay you.
yes, exactly. So there is no when clients work through a mortgage broker, they will always pay exactly the same as if they would go directly to the bank and try to figure it out by themselves. The difference is, of course, our help during the process from the start to make the comparison, to make sure that they get the right product for them, to get to the approval with the bank, and to coordinate with the bank and the notary and the selling party in there, as you said. We work together with the different realtors. We work together with the developer or with the person who is actually selling the house if it is a direct agreement.
Wow, I love this. So I guess one of the last things that I want to ask you before we get your information is, so basically, as long as I have enough money to put down my 10% deposit, it really doesn't matter what kind of past I have in my other country, whether it be Canada, US, or wherever, as long as I have the pesos to deposit, I'm pretty good as far as the banks here are concerned.
They will check your credit history. So yes, it's important to have a decent credit history. And they will check your income. You have to prove income. What banks want to see is that you have cash flow. That's the
That
most
you can
important.
pay your mortgage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
there will be money coming in to pay the monthly payment. That's what they worry about. They will
Right.
check your tax returns as well, but the
Okay.
most important
Tax
part is
returns.
the cash flow and the credit history. Yes.
Okay, so my tax returns and I have money to pay the mortgage. Those are the two important things. Well, that's really, I think that's really helpful because I know there are some people that kind of, fall between the cracks. They have really good income or, they have no credit or, maybe some issues with credit because, the lending standards in the US are probably a lot more stricter than they are in Mexico. So they might, just be kind of on the edge and, but still qualify here because they meet, some of the most of all of the requirements here, which are not as bad. So I really appreciate this has been a great insight into purchasing here in Mexico. And I would love for people to reach out to, because I'm sure there's many things that we didn't cover now that folks may have an interest in, and they want to reach out to you directly. I know that you're right now based in Querétaro, but I mean, if I want to purchase home in Mexico City, can I also reach out to you? Mérida, Yucatan, can I connect with you?
Yes, anywhere in Mexico. Most of our process is digital, so it doesn't matter where you are in Mexico. The part that is really in person is when you have to go to the notary and actually sign the deed of the property. That always is done in
A
the place where
local.
the property
Yeah.
is, exactly. And if it's too far away from Querétaro and I'm not able to drive there, then I think 120 colleagues more or less in the rest of Mexico, literally from Tijuana to Cancun. So there will always be someone of Hipoteca Genial accompanying you. Yes.
I love it. Sounds exciting. Please tell us how we can connect with you for those that are interested in finding out more about mortgages in Mexico.
Of course. My phone number is the easiest because my name is a little bit more complicated. So my phone number is +52 442 137 6608. I can communicate via WhatsApp. I can take calls, of course. So that's the easiest way. We actually also have an ebook with the very basics, but it's good information. It's a good place to start. It's called the ABC of the Mexican Mortgage. So we can send that as well to have an ID so you can get started, and we can schedule a Zoom session to hear all about your plans. As you said, this is client-based. No client is the same. No situation is the same. Nobody has the same finances, the same plans, the same family structure. So it all depends on every client.
Sure. But it just sounds really exciting. And I think now, you know, that you've shared a lot of good information, people who might have been hesitant, you know, or don't know where to start. Now they have a base from which to start. And I think your ebook is probably going to be awesome to help clear up a lot of confusion. Thank you, Kathy, so much for spending some time with us. I'll make sure that I put links and your phone number in the description. So, you know, when someone needs more info, they will connect with you directly. And thank you. This has been really, really exciting to know that, you know, there are possibilities, and it's not as, you know, complex and complicated as many people probably think that it is, or out of reach.
Exactly. That's where we come in. We make sure that it's a happy process and a smooth process, and that you really enjoyed that experience of buying your home in Mexico.
And before we go, because we do a lot of expat interviews, you yourself are an expat, correct?
Yes, that's right. I'm from Belgium. I've been in Mexico for 14 years now. First, I was 7 years in Mexico City, and now I've been 7 years in Querétaro. So yes, I know what it is.
Very nice. Yeah, so you have the expat experience. Very good, very good. Thank you so much, Kathy. Have an amazing day, and I hope that folks will reach out to you to get more information about mortgages and buying a home in beautiful Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a nice day.